For 9 days in the summer of 1553, the 16-year-old Lady Jane Grey was proclaimed Queen of England. Less than a year later, she knelt before the executioner. Her cousin Mary, the first woman to rule England in her own right, ordered her beheading. For a long time, little was known about Jane's appearance. Only one painting was believed to depict her, while all other images were later artistic interpretations. However, a second painting has now surfaced, and experts at the English Heritage Foundation say there is convincing evidence that it portrays Jane. Welcome back to Lemmy History. This is a shorter, actually unplanned video. But if there are sensational finds that fit thematically with my channel, I want to talk about them. And Jane is without question one of them. Her story has always fascinated me. The reason I haven't covered her yet is that I'm planning a very in-depth piece. Jane was chosen by her cousin, Edward VI, as his successor when the 15-year-old lay on his deathbed. To ensure this, Edward drafted the device for the succession, bypassing the order of inheritance established by his father, Henry VIII. According to Henry's will, his half-sisters, Mary and Elizabeth, were next in line before Jane. However, Edward, a staunch Protestant, sought to prevent the Catholic Mary from taking the throne. Due to his rapidly declining health, there was not enough time to have Parliament officially change the succession law. Mary ultimately prevailed after a brief civil war that lasted just 9 days, with Elizabeth, who would later become queen in 1558, supporting her. Jane was executed in February of the following year after a failed Protestant uprising attempted to restore her to the throne. Mary had initially done everything in her power to spare Jane's life, but the continued threat she posed proved too great. One of the most famous depictions of Jane comes from the 19th century, a dramatic image of her execution in which she blindly reaches for the executioner's block, her eyes already covered by a blindfold. The painting in question is privately owned, and its owner has exhibited it multiple times. However, the subject's identity remained unclear until now. Previously, Mary Neville Fienne, Lady Dacre, was considered the leading candidate. Historian J. Stephen Edwards, an expert on images of the 9 Days Queen, still believes the painting depicts her. While he acknowledges the new evidence as intriguing, he remains unconvinced. The age determination of the painting does not provide a definitive answer. Analysis of the wood panel indicates that it was created between 1539 and 1571. Mary Neville, whose only confirmed portraits date from Elizabeth I's reign, was born in 1524. If the painting were completed in 1539, she would have been 15, about the same age Jane Grey was before her brief reign. Mary appears noticeably different in her known portraits. However, in all of them, she is significantly older. The youngest confirmed portrait of her depicts her at 31, by which time she had already given birth to 3 children. These factors could explain the differences between her known images and the Rest Park portrait, the painting now attributed to Jane. But is it really Jane? Experts at English Heritage base their assumption on 3 key points. First, the back of the painting bears the same royal cargo stamp found on portraits of Edward VI. These stamps authenticate paintings commissioned for members of the royal family and were updated with each new monarch. Since Jane ruled for such a brief time, it is likely that no new stamp had been introduced yet, meaning Edward's mark was still in use. If the painting predates Jane's reign, it would bear Edward's stamp because he was king at the time. Jane, being related to Edward through both her father and mother, was part of the royal family, making it plausible that such a portrait of her existed. Edward ascended the throne when Mary Neville was 23 and ruled until she was 29. It is not impossible that she was portrayed at this age. However, we have another portrait believed to depict her at 31, where she looks noticeably different. Additionally, all of her children were born before Edward became king, which complicates the argument that the painting is of her. Another striking detail is that the eyes, nose, and mouth of the woman in the portrait were deliberately scratched out, just as they were in the previously known painting of Jane. This aligns with what is believed to have been Queen Mary I's treatment of images of her Protestant predecessor. By contrast, Mary Neville had no conflict with Queen Mary. In fact, she was part of her funeral procession. Finally, it has been confirmed that the subject's attire was significantly altered at some point. Experts hope to uncover exactly how. This kind of modification would make sense for a painting of Lady Jane, as it is possible that after her deposition or execution, her portrait was altered to depict someone else, perhaps Mary Neville. Changing the existing painting would have been more economical than commissioning an entirely new one. So, could this portrait represent both Jane and Mary at different points in time? It remains a possibility. I wanted to share this fascinating discovery. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.